3 or 4 pages, but I can probably get the rest done on our break. So just remind me if I don't remember. I could probably bang the rest out
Okay.
in like 10 minutes probably.
That'll be easy. I got most of them wrong, so you can just.
Oh, just
No.
everything. Okay, that could work.
You trying to copy me then?
No.
Oh, there's no copying. We don't want to outdo each other in that way. if possible.
That way.
So on page 100, we have an English paradigm and Greek paradigm. Because the word autos is the third person personal pronoun. So, what is, let me ask first, in English, and now you can just give me the singular subject form of these words. What is the first person pronoun? I, right? It's the person who is speaking. So it's I. And if it's the object, it's me. Possessive, it's my, mine. And if it's in the plurals, we go into we, our, ours, us, right? That's all first person. It is the person or persons speaking, right? Second person is what in English?
You.
The second person pronoun is you in English. It's the person or persons or people being spoken to, okay? Now in English, a lot of those forms are exactly the same. You, we know, can be singular or it can be plural. You know, so when I say you, can you translate, number 8 from the workbook? You might be thinking, who is he looking at right now? Because in English, it can be singular or plural, right? Is he talking to all? No, probably not. Is it one person? It brings confusion. We use y'all sometimes. Old school English had ye, and that's nice because it broke it up. It brought a little more specificity. Well, in Greek, there is a distinct form for the singular and plural. So that's nice. It's actually a nice thing. So we have you, whether it's subject or object, and then the possessives are your, right? Your or yours for second person. Now, that's first and second. Third person, personal pronoun, in English. Give me an example.
He.
He. Yes.
She.
She.
It.
Them. It. Yes. These are all correct answers because they're all third person, right? What's interesting is, when you were first started to learn Greek vocab and you see the gender, if this is the first, second language you've acquired, you're like, gender? What? There's 3 genders? This is weird, English doesn't do that. Well, with the third person personal pronoun it does. He can't refer to a rock. Nope. And you know that. You know that instinctively. So actually, you do kind of intuitively understand gender to some extent with words through the third person pronoun. So he, she, and it. We have 3 genders there. So that's nice. It's like Greek.
Whoever made that up, that's dumb to me.
So
No,
In
it
the-
doesn't make
Right.
sense. It's not personal, They should have named it objectional pronoun, like an object or something. That's just my opinion.
but what would the form be? Would you still use he or she if you were
No, I'm talking about an it. It. Like you were just referring to the
Yeah,
rock or whatever.
Okay. Well, there's 3 different forms. It's really it's neuter, isn't it? It's basically just like the neuter because it doesn't have gender, and so we say it. So we have. Let's go with the masculine column. Let's picture this in our brains. We have a he, she, it, and we got some columns. So he functions how in a sentence? It functions as the subject. Correct. Now, what if that is possessive?
Is.
His.
His. What if it's a possessive predicate? That cup is,
Also
Of
his.
it's still his,
Of
right?
his.
This is his marker.
That marker is.
That marker
Oh,
is
right.
his, right? It's, so, in other personal pronouns, there's a switching there, but not with the word he. So you have he, his, what if it's the object?
Him.
Him, yes. What if it's plural? Subject,
They.
a group of men, they. And if it's possessive,
Theirs.
their or theirs, if it's in the predicate.
Oh, I
How do you spell there?
I always get that wrong even to
T-H-E-Y
this
apostrophe
day.
R-A.
T-H-E-I-R. There is the third person, plural, possessive pronoun. There. It's commonly confused spelling wise, so that's why I asked.
I always spell it
What if it's the object? We're in the plural.
wrong. Okay. They.
We're going to pick
Them.
blank
Them.
up for the movie.
Them.
Them.
Yes.
Them.
Them. Now keep those plurals in mind as we move on to the other columns. If we did he, what would our next column be?
She.
She, right? She functions how in a sentence?
Subject.
As the subject. What if it is possessive? This is blank marker,
Hers.
her marker. This marker is
Hers.
hers. We add a S on there. Ooh, that's nice. What if it's the object? What if she's the object?
Her.
This belongs to
No.
her. Belongs
It-
to
Her.
It's still her.
Yeah.
So it's a little funky, huh? So
Yeah.
like the possessive is the same as the objective for the she column. So and you know that instinctively. You wouldn't mess that up in a sentence, or if you were writing, like if you were speaking that or writing that, you wouldn't get that wrong. You know this. So it's just because we're doing it with the proper categories of grammar, that's what's taking us a little longer. But when you speak, you don't get any of this wrong. You know it. Okay? But think about the rules though. You know, the possessive for she in the singular is the same as the objective. But then with the masculine column, they're different. But you know that. So I want you to be impressed with yourself. You should be impressed. Come on. You know some pretty crazy rules of grammar. We just did the objective. So let's do the plurals. What if it's a group of women? We would say blank are walking down the street.
It's still they.
They, just like the masculine, right? Now what if it's possessive?
There.
Theirs. What if it's the object?
Them.
Them. Same as masculine. That's nice. Now let's go to our last column. Our last column is what? Which would be this one in Greek. What is it in English?
It.
It. It's basically neuter, right? If it's the subject, it's it. It is walking down the street. What if it is possessive?
It's.
It's. How do you spell that?
Without an apostrophe.
Yes, I-T-S. I'm going to its birthday party. That's an odd sentence.
Why would you go to its birthday?
It's an odd
Sounds like
sentence.
Southern grammar.
Well, maybe some people have birthday parties for their animals, don't they? Like dogs. Some people
Oh,
do
yeah,
that.
they do.
So you could say that sentence might actually come out of someone's mouth. Or has, I'm sure it has. So, I-T-S, no apostrophe. Just leave that bad boy out. That's a contraction of it is. Just leave that thing out. There's no need for it to be in that sentence. What if it is the object? It's the same as the subject. Kind of like Greek, huh? Ew, nominative, accusative, whatever. But don't actually make that connection. That might not be from Greek. But anyway, what if it is plural? They. Plural possessive. Their. Plural object or objective.
Can you say a
Them.
sentence for that?
Them.
That just doesn't seem right. I mean, it probably is. Just like say,
Like you wouldn't actually,
Like
okay.
say, like, it, singular would be, it said, or not it said, it walked away, or,
Well, I'll do the plurals, because I think the
Okay.
plurals are a little more funky when you're thinking about the neuter or the it
Right.
column. Okay, you come, you see a person
yeah,
who's like completely covered in rocks,
okay,
and only their head is sticking out of the pile, and then you're like, what happened? And this person is like, they fell on me,
right.
you know? So really
Oh.
they are a bunch of its,
Yeah.
those rocks, right?
Yeah,
But if you're referring to a bunch of them, you would say they or
okay,
them.
now I get it.
Their weight is a lot. Their weight is crushing me. Can you help? So then we have that. There's the possessive, plural possessive.
Okay,
There, that is the weight of the rocks, is ruining my morning. Can you do something? Something like
I
that.
get it.
So, there's your third person personal pronoun in English. Let's look at it in Greek. We have autos, aute, auta. I'm going to put the smooth breathing mark for clarity because when we get to hutas, one of them looks like one of these, but it has a rough. So, just pay attention. Remember, these are all smooth. Question for you. We have these three columns. You're familiar with these columns from Logos, Graphe, Ergon. So, which one is he, which one's she, which one's it?
First he.
He, she,
It.
it, right? Do you think, knowing that this is 2, 1, 2, and knowing the endings from Logos, Graphe, Ergon, do you think that we could decline these together as a group?
Or we'll try.
Yes.
You at home, do you think that we could decline these together? Good. Good, good, good. I heard that resounding yes from the remote locations. So, we have autos, first column. This is nominative, and we're in the singular, so let's do genitive.
Autu.
Autu, oh come on. No! This is the one that had its cap left off, isn't it? Right. Maybe this one. Hold up. Autu, yay. And dative singular.
Autu.
Auto, how should I spell that?
Alpha, Upsilon, Tau, Omega.
With an iota substitute.
Aha.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
And
so
the
tiny.
accusative singular.
Auton.
Yes, auton. Accusative singular. Let's get into the plurals. Nominative plural, what do you think? Yes, autoi, just like logoi, right? Genitive plural,
Outone.
autone, right? Own all day. Autone. Dative plural.
Aute. Autus.
I don't know.
We just need to pronounce it correctly. Autais.
Autais.
Autais. Yep. I think you all were probably spelling it right in your head. It's just, the alpha iota diphthong, the vocal quality is I. Autais. Yep.
Wait, I'm confused because
Oh!
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry.
Right.
That was my bad.
That's
that
not
was-
an alpha.
Feminine that. Okay.
Yes,
That
you
was-
are absolutely correct. I'm very sorry.
Don't be.
Let's edit the video. Let's get that mistake out of there.
But you made a mistake.
Just kidding. Yeah, it's autois. Sorry about that. You had like this little like wait what moment. So that's good though.
You were testing.
Yes, autois because because it's second. Autais is of course first declension. So we'll get there in a minute. So our accusative plural should be what?
Autus.
Autus.
Autus. So, how would you translate this? Autos.
He.
He.
How would you translate auto?
Auto.
How
Yep.
so?
Him. Of him.
Not of.
To
to
him.
him.
To him is a possibility because it's indirect object. So, To him, in him, with him, by him, those are possibilities. Okay? What about autu?
His.
Absolutely. His is going to be a very common translation for autu. What's another possibility using the preposition that's designated for your genitive?
Of him.
Of him is a possibility. But lots of times it's going to be his because it's possessive, right? What about autom? How would that translate into
Him.
him? Because it's the direct object, right? Him. Now, what if we had autoi? I'm going to call on somebody. Lois, what do you think about autoi? How would you translate that?
They.
They. Absolutely. All right. Dan, what do you think about autone?
There.
There. Yup. Could be of them, technically, but a lot of times it's going to be there, right? Dad, what do you think about autois? Dative, but it's plural.
That's not them, is it?
Well, the word will be them, but it's dative, so you supply, right? Because it's an indirect object. So you need to supply a preposition.
With them?
With them is definitely a possibility, because it's an indirect object. So that's valid. With, to, by, in, those all are possibilities. Autus, Chris?
Them.
Them, because it's your straight up direct object, right? Now, let's do the feminine column. Aute. Let's write out the rest of it. Genitive singular.
Out case.
Yes, autes. Very sorry, I'm gonna have to switch. Dative?
Okay.
Aute. With a
Aute.
little mark underneath.
Go to subscript.
Yes.
And the accusative.
Get that little thing.
With the little thingy underneath. Right?
Okay.
Autain ends in a new. Let's do nominative plural.
Okay.
It's,
Outside.
it's gonna be pronounced autai.
Outside.
And genitive, autone. Yay. And dative, plural,
Outcase.
autais. This is what we were looking for before. And lastly, accusative. Yes, autas. What are the last two letters? How do I spell it?
Alpha, sigma.
Yep, autas. Okay. Autai, how does that translate? Well, it's
They.
nominative
It's
plural.
still they.
They. Yep. They. Aute. Dative singular.
Of her.
Her.
Well, of is genitive.
Sorry.
Two.
By her.
Her.
To her, with her.
Yep, to her, by her, with her. Yeah? Autain. Her. It's the object, right? Autace.
Hers. Of her.
Or just her.
Could,
Hers.
She?
okay, so it can be her. That's a possibility 'cause as possessive, like her marker, right? Could be hers. Marker is hers, and it also could be of her. That's a possibility as well because it's genitive. And aute, she. And autais,
To them.
To them.
With
By
them.
them.
By
to them, with them, by them, because it's dative and it's plural. Very good. Auta means what?
It.
It.
It. Let's do it, Stick Lanchan. Ha 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 ha. Genitive singular.
Out to.
Autu, right? Just like the masculine one. Alright. And dative? Auto.
Subscript. Yoda.
And the accusative.
Alta.
Auta, how do I spell that?
Alpha, upsilon,
Well,
tau,
you know.
omega. I mean, omicron.
Yep, omicron, just like this one. And the nominative plural.
Alpha.
How do I spell that?
With an alpha.
Yep. Auta. right? Like ergon. Ergon is basically the same. It just ergon happens to stick a new on the end of the nominative and the accusative. But think about when we go into the plural. Erga ends in an alpha, right? Just like, well, never mind. I was going to use another example, but then I. Yes,
Why
Patrick.
does it have the new at the end of it?
For ergon?
Yeah. Is
Cut-
that that movable new thing? That
No,
Okay.
no, ergon is not a movable new. Some neuter words will, a lot of neuter nouns, it's lexical form will end in a new. That's pretty, like sabaton, right?
Yeah.
And also nouns that end in mu, alpha, like pneuma, like anima, those are, I think they might even all the time be neuter. If not all the time, the vast majority of the time. So, yep. So we have auta. What about our gender plural?
Auto.
Auto. And dative.
Autos.
Altoids.
Yes, autos. And the last one.
Autos.
Auta. Because remember, it is,
Out of sight.
it's neuter. So it's the same. So look at all these forms. Now this is the thing. You look at this, and it's like, that's a lot. Oh man, that's the same word. But think about the third person pronoun in English, right? When at the beginning of this time, I asked you all the different forms, right? But you were able to come up with them. So there's a lot of different forms of this word even in English. We're kind of used to that. But what's nice about this is it follows that same exact pattern. Lavas, grafe, ergon. Okay? We've been seeing, the article does that too, right? Ha, he, ta. Tu, tes, tu. To, te, to. Tam, tam, tame, ta. The article, we have the 2-1-2 nouns. We went over the adjective, right? Agathos is following this. So a whole bunch of adjectives follow the same one. And now we have the third person pronoun. So there's a lot of stuff that's following these same patterns. So you get them, you practice those patterns, you get them drilled in your head, and then you can parse a ton of different words, right? So, you've basically already seen this. The only difference is the out, the first three letters, that don't change. They're the only ones that are different than those other paradigms that you've already seen. Now, the way it functions, well, we just broke down one function. The first function of the word autos is that it's a personal pronoun. That functions just like we've already seen, like a he, like a she, like a them in translation. So that's the first way that it functions. So for instance, when you're looking on page 101 in the textbook, there's that subtitle that says, The 3 Uses of Autos. And I guess the emphasis is on the second syllable. Unfortunately, sometimes with a lexical form, well, maybe it's just me. There's certain words where I memorized it and I wasn't paying super close attention to the emphasis, especially if it's only like a 2-syllable word. And so I always say autos, but I should be saying autos. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I'm going to do what I can to correct that. All right, the 3 uses of autos. First one, it's see a summary. Do not think of autos as a third person pronoun. Oops, whoops. Well, let me say something about that. You can think of it. It's a third person pronoun. It just does 2 other things as well. So it's not a big deal. So the first one, the first function is the personal pronoun. Okay? And that's what we just went over. You see he, she, it, they, those forms that he gives you, they're all in this paradigm right here that we just did. Yeah, let's look at these examples. In this usage, the case of the pronoun is determined by its function. So, for instance, right here, the subject, autoi tam theon opsantai. That's from Matthew 5:8. Autoi means they. And then tantean, means God. You see that it's accusative, so it's the object of what? Apsantai. You don't know that word yet, but just trust me, it is a verb. And it means they will see. So, autoi is the subject of that verb. It's functioning. Why? And you know that just by seeing autoi, because it's nominative, so you know it's a subject, right? They will see God. Now, the direct object. We're looking at that sentence. Paralambane, that's the first word. He's translating that here as took. That is a verb. Autan, so took him. Autan is accusative, right? And it is in the masculine column. Accusative singular masculine, so it's going to be him. Not her, not it, but him. So, we have paralambane autan ha diabolos. Yep, diabolos means devil. So, the devil, you see ha diabolos, so that's nominative. So you know it's the subject of the verb paralambane. So, the devil took him. And then the estain hagian palen into the holy city, or to the holy city. Let's just look at the genitive usage as well. When showing possession in the genitive, the pronoun usually follows the word it modifies. So that's interesting, right? Because in English, if you have, if you're going to say the workbook of him, then you'd probably say his workbook, right? The possessive pronoun precedes, comes before the noun, usually. Well, in Greek, lots of times it follows it. Just so you know, it's still right next to it. So it would be hard not to see it as possessive, because it's still right next to the noun the vast majority of the time, or the word that's modifying. But let's look at this. Kaleses ta'anama autu Iesun. So, kaleses is you will call, but he has you shall call. Okay, we have ta'anama. Ta'anama, that form, you remember we learned it last class, it's neuter, so that can be nominative or accusative. Here it's accusative.
See, yeah, but I would have guessed it was the subject.
Well,
Because that's how I think about
but here's the thing though. If it were the subject, the verb here is kaleses, you will call. So that is the word you, that second person. The subject has to be second person. And ta'anama, if that were the subject, it would be third person. So you don't know that yet just because you haven't
it. We
learned
didn't
verbs.
do verbs yet, yeah.
That's the only reason why. But this, once you learn verbs and you look at the sentence, you're like, is anima the subject or the object? Well, because in this context, that verb is a second person. You, not it, not he, she, or it will call, but you will call. You will know anima can't possibly be the subject.
Okay.
So therefore, it's the object, kaleses, you will call ta'anima, the name, but then you have autu. Okay, so then you're going to say his name. So literally the name of him, but this is possessive, so let's just make it nice English. You will call his name, and then Yesun, you will call his name Jesus. Jesus is also in the accusative because it's also the direct object here. Certain verbs take two direct objects, like words of like to call. I called the dog dumb. The dog is being called, but then the word dumb is actually directly associated with that verb as well. So even though it's an adjective, that would be accusative too. So anyway, that's why Iesun is also in the accusative. The double accusative thing isn't really necessary right now. Just mentioning it. For fun. So, you see the top of the next page? it's a pretty obvious statement. The pronouns gender and number are determined by its antecedent. The antecedent of a pronoun is, Mark was crazy mad yesterday. Them
Them
punched the
else.
wall. Something's not right. Yes, Chris?
So does that only work when the pronoun is in the subject? Because if it was in genitive, you could translate it his book. Book isn't antecedent to his. It doesn't come before it. It comes after it.
Well, his would still be representing Mark, like if we're talking about Mark, it'd still be representing Mark, not the book.
Okay.
So like for instance, Mark came to class yesterday, he, forget about the word he though, we're just gonna do a possessive one. He forgot his book. That works because his is masculine just like Mark and it's singular. But if I said Mark came to class yesterday, he forgot their book, you would actually think that he was supposed to bring some other people's book, and he didn't, you know? But, for it to actually match that gender, that number, and actually the function, it's all gonna match up. So it's the same thing in Greek. Same thing in Greek. Makes perfect sense. If you had the word huios, and the son went home, and then the beginning of the next sentence was supposed to say he fell asleep, and the word for he was autai, it would be extremely confusing.
Yeah.
You'd be like, wait, what? That means they, like a group of women.
Women,
They.
yeah.
This doesn't make any sense to me. So if, the huios came home, and then the next sentence said, his mom spoke to him, what form here would you expect to see for to him?
To him. The outone. No.
What am I? I'm getting different answers.
Auto.
Auto, this one?
Auto.
Yes, because it's indirect. His mom spoke to
Oh,
him, indirect object. And it's masculine though. It wouldn't be aute, no, because huios is masculine. So the pronoun matches the thing it's representing, the antecedent, in case, number, and gender. Excuse me, not necessarily in case, in number and gender, because the case, like the boy came to the house, well that's going to be nominative, because he's the subject, right? The boy came to the house. But then in the next sentence, his mother spoke to him, you're not going to use the nominative, because to him is indirect, it's auto. But the gender and the number will match. But when you think about it, that's basically exactly the same as English. So that's understandable, I think. Now, there are two other usages for autos. Use number 2, you see that's about halfway down the page, adjectival intensive. Okay, I think Val maybe asked a question about this the other day. I'm just going to read this. Autos can also function intensively when it is used adjectivally. In this case, autos normally modifies another word and is usually in the predicate position. Translate autos with a reflexive pronoun. Himself, herself, itself, themselves. So, this is actually not that hard to recognize. This is why. Look at that first example. Autos ha apostolos, right? Well, you're looking at autos, and you're probably thinking, oh, autos, it's nominative, it's singular, it's masculine. It means he. But then you see ha apostolos, and then you would probably have a verb and a direct object, and you're like, wait,
I know.
how can it be he, like the subject of that verb, when I already have a nominative noun? Ha apostolos is probably going to be the subject of the noun. What is this autos doing? So that right there will let you know, like, oh, I already have a noun that's functioning in this way. It doesn't have to be the subject. It doesn't matter autos in this sense is going to match its it's going to match the word that it's modifying, actually in case, number, and gender, like an adjective does. But like you're gonna be able to tell from the sentence that it's not taking the place of a noun, because the noun is still gonna be there, you know. So it's not replacing it because it's there.
Yeah.
And then you'll see that it matches that noun in case, number, and gender. And so it will be apparent when you're translating. So you notice here, another interesting thing is that in this instance, most of the time, the noun has an article and the word autos does not. Okay? So what that's doing, when it says that it's intensive, it means that it's placing emphasis on that noun, on that word. Okay? So, we don't do that.
Yeah, it seems extra. It seems like you don't really
Well,
most
well,
of the time.
in language, there's certain things that are done in writing, but aren't done so much when you speak. So, this is part of the reason. Part of the reason is because of this. We've talked about emphasizing syllables in words, right? There's certain ways that we emphasize certain words. If you emphasize them differently, sometimes it's a completely different word. Like refuse and refuse, right? We gave that as an example. This was many classes ago. But in general, we know instinctively how to place emphasis properly on a word, because we hear it being spoken. You know, sometimes there's more than one applicable or applicable. Those are actually, people do both. Insurance or insurance. When I go to school in Washington, everyone says insurance. That's wrong. We know that over here. They don't know that. It's insurance. Second syllable, not first syllable. But have you ever thought about emphasizing words in a sentence? Okay? We do it all the time. We say a sentence, and we will put a little more emphasis on one or a group of words.
You just did it about 3 times.
We do it all, I know, right? I'm trying to accentuate it a little more for you guys. So, you know, okay, right now, you're all staring at me.
Okay. All right. I guess.
Right now, you're all staring at me. Right now, you're all staring at me. Right now, you all are staring at me.
Okay.
So, that's the same sentence. Well, I probably switched a couple of words in there or something. But I basically just said the same sentence, 3 or 4 times?
With different-
And I placed the emphasis on a different word each time. It's still the same sentence, but technically there's a little difference in meaning, in weights, weighting different words, right? That comes across when we're speaking. The person listening to you picks that up, processes that. Sometimes we misunderstand, you know what I mean? We miscommunicate. But that emphasis on certain words, that comes across. How does that come across in writing? If you're like, you know, reading stuff that's less formal, like articles online or blogs, people will italicize certain words, maybe put them in bold, maybe put them in caps, but lots of times italicization, if that's a word, is a little more, I guess, elegant.
Or professional, yeah.
But yeah, if you're reading a scholarly work, that's not, lots of times that doesn't happen. So here's the question, how do you communicate that in writing? So this is one of the ways. So instead of saying, let's look at the second example, autos gar ha Herodes, so for Herod himself, apostelas kratesen tan Ioanne. He sent and seized John. So you can see the first 4 words, autos, gar ha Herodes. So ha Herodes, that's a cognate, Herod, right? Herodes, Herod. He has the article. He's nominative. He's a subject. Okay. Gar means for. It's post-positive, meaning it comes second in the sentence, but you put it first when you translate it. Then you have an autos. Autos is nominative. How can that be the subject? Herod is the subject. What's going on? This is a pronoun. It replaces a noun, but there's already a noun. What's going on here? Well, it's this second function. We see that autos matches Herodes in case, number, and gender, and Herod has the article. Autos does not. So it's intensifying. It's putting emphasis on the word Herod. So there you translate it Herod himself. That's how we're going to place emphasis. We're not going to italicize Herod. I guess you could, but don't do that because that's not what you do. We're going to put Herod himself sent and seized John. Yes.
So I just two questions actually, really quick. So when it says for Herod himself sent and seized John, you're omitting the word like sent for. That's what we're trying to say, right? Herod himself sent for and seized John.
No, are you talking about the word gar?
Sent.
No. Just like in the English translation when you're translating it. He's trying to say he sent for John, right?
Well, no, I understand what you're saying. Okay, that apostelos, that word, that's an inflected form of apostello. It's actually where the word apostolos, apostle, comes from. No, that word does not mean sent for, it means to send.
Okay.
So that's why he's not going to insert the word for.
Okay.
Yep.
And
It probably is speaking about a group of people whom he sent, you know? So
Right.
Herod sent, implied people, and then they seized him.
right.
I was thinking that it meant literally Herod
Herod.
went himself and grabbed John himself.
That's exactly what I was about to ask the second. Yeah. So how do you tell the difference between when he does the action, if he himself is sending, if he's sending himself, or if he's sending other people?
Well, if he had sent himself, himself would come after sent in in English. Like when you translate it, I think the problem here is the verb. Maybe there's a better example with like a sentence that doesn't use that, like a sending verb. It's not as confusing.
Well, because in English, I can say I myself went to the store, or like I'm talking about myself, like I myself went to the store. So like, did he himself send and seize John?
You could also say, I myself sent my little brother to the store.
Right, but in this sentence, there's no person that he's sending. It doesn't mention.
It's not
that.
explicit.
Right.
Yes. No, it's a very good question. I agree that this example might be a little confusing.
But there's always context, right?
There is context, and you think about like how it works for kings or people in
Right.
positions of authority at that time.
You don't
For him to go personally
Yeah.
and get John, I don't. Oh,
Yeah.
very, very unlikely. So,
Unlikely, but if it happened, it would be like crazy. It would be a very important thing to know.
yes.
You know.
Is this autos indicating that? I'm not sure. My gut is no, but I'd have to look into it more.
Especially
That's a great question. I'd have to, look at
Yeah.
all the text around it.
In the context, John was criticizing him for marrying his brother's wife. You know, so it's just interesting. It's an interesting.
And he also didn't want to kill him
question.
too.
Right.
But specifically
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
Herodias' daughter put him on the spot in front of all his peeps, and he was like,
Oh, I have to look at
Right, so maybe he would want to go somehow
know.
make that extra effort, extraordinary effort really, to go himself to get him.
yeah.
Say, look, you gotta cool it, man. I'm gonna put you in prison for a little while, but
We'll
I
have
wanted
to
to
check.
tell you directly, privately, cool it, man.
We'll have to check it out further.
Yeah.
Something to put in for once we get through the textbook. If you guys want to do a little reading group and read through stuff, we could dive into that.
Cool.
Think about it. Okay. Adjectival intensive. Last one is, it's on the next page, it's kind of near the bottom, 12, 11. Page
Identical.
103, use number 3, the
Identical.
identical adjective. So basically, sometimes it means the same. That's how it's translated, the same. Sometimes, okay? Let's just read this. Autos is sometimes used as the identical adjective meaning same. This is its least frequent usage. It's normally in the attributive position when used in this way, but not always. So that means that it has the, lots of times when it means the same, it has an article, but the word it's modifying does not. So look at that example. The first one, kai pollen, and again, apelton, after going, praseuxata, he prayed, tan autan. Okay, so that's our word here, tan autan, lagar. So we're looking at that, and again, after leaving or after going away, he prayed the man word. Wait, autan the him? Autan means like the him word? No. Okay, can't be personal pronoun. Then we get into our other two. You know? Is it the word itself, or is it the same word? Well, you have the article on the word autos and nothing on logos. In that case, the vast majority of the time, it's going to be the word same. So, and again, after going away, he prayed the same word. And look how he translates it, the same thing. Logos doesn't literally mean thing, but in that context, he's saying this is what Mark means. He prayed the same thing, prayed the same
Pretty
words.
confusing.
What?
Extremely confusing to me.
Well, it's your third usage of autos. It's the least frequent. Okay? But basically, you just go through the possibilities for the word autos, and then you end up finding that the pronoun isn't really a possibility. And then you're down to your last two. So, for autos, most of the time it's going to be a pronoun. So, this is the stuff, all the stuff we went through right here. Think pronoun first, and then as we go along, we work through workbook together and stuff. You'll see different instances where it means some other things. You'll get the hang of that stuff as you translate more. But most of the time it's the pronoun. We got to go over it, because this is grammar. We got to go over the grammar. Yes, Lois?
The instance where this is used on a noun and it's supposed to agree with the noun because it's masculine or feminine.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens, well, I'm still having a little trouble memorizing my vocabulary with knowing its gender.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens, is there some other clue in the sentence, like the position of that pronoun, that would help me? Like, that I wouldn't confuse it with some other thing going on in the sentence, like a direct object or something like that.
Now, are you talking about when the form of the word autos is functioning, like, are you trying to determine whether it's functioning as a pronoun or as the intensive or the identical? Or,
Kind of. I mean, I might be guessing that it goes, I need a certain pronoun because of what the subject is. But really, it might be just matching the gender of the noun that it's working with. Do you see what I mean?
I'm not really sure.
It would be a problem.
Well, I'm trying to get exactly what you're asking.
Okay.
I know if you're asking about how to determine which it is, if it's a pronoun, Okay, if you see a form of the word autos,
Uh-huh.
and it's not a pronoun, there's gonna be a noun, like, basically right
Right
next to
there.
it,
Okay.
that matches it in case, number, and gender, you know? So if you see a form of autos, and there's nothing near it that matches it,
Uh-huh.
it's probably replacing a noun.
Okay.
So it's functioning as a pronoun.
Okay.
And then, but if it's not, you'll see that other word right next to it that matches in case, number, gender.
Okay.
If it's intensive, the word autos usually will not have an article, and if it does, then it usually is identical, meaning the same.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of it, I think with this one, a lot of it comes from encountering it in sentences and seeing, the first few times you get it wrong, but then you like, oh, okay, this is why that was, so. All right, let's take our break now. Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back. 10 minutes. All right, thank you. We're gonna look at chapter 13 real quick.
Wow, we're just like going really quick.
Chapter 13 are demonstratives. Now, a demonstrative in English, well, demonstrative can be a pronoun or an adjective.
I have one quick question.
Yep.
How does the workbook, and I never noticed where it tells you in here, what page, where does it tell you what page in the workbook coordinates with the chapter?
The whole, each chapter, so the workbook's broken up into chapters, which are called exercises.
Yeah.
So like, let's say exercise 13,
Oh, yeah.
all of exercise 13 in the workbook goes with chapter 13 in the book.
All right.
So that's how it's matched up. So for demonstratives, it's an adjective or a pronoun that it's kind of pointing out. It is giving us information about the closeness or the farness. So let's say the proximity or the remoteness, something being near or far from the speaker, So we use the word this. If it's plural, we use these. This means, this means that it's close, right? And then if it's far, it's that or those. Pretty simple. When we think about it, those words can be used like an adjective attached, or well, not exactly attached, but like right next to a noun. So I could say, this marker, this workbook, that chair, right? Because it's a little further away from me. So that chair, those chairs, those is the plural of that, these is the plural of this. So we can, like I said, we can use them as an adjective. We can say this marker, or technically it can function as a kind of like a pronoun as well, just like an adjective would. So the meek shall inherit the earth, right? The meek. Meek is an adjective, but the meek it's substantival, right?
Yeah.
It's representing nouns, or representing a noun. This, these, that, those can do the same thing. Bring me those. Bring me those. Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah.
Of course you have. And sometimes it's like, ooh, what exactly are you talking about? Well, if the person's holding, the cardboard tray with 4 Dunkin' Donut coffees, and someone says, bring those to me, there isn't really any question what this person wants. We know this person wants that liquid. But, like if I just said it, bring those to me right now, it would be a lot more ambiguous. You'd be wondering, what exactly does he want? But see, there, it's functioning as a pronoun, right? Those. Whatever. I'm just going to stop with that. So, it sometimes functions substantively. When you're looking on page 107, You see the paradigm. Here's the paradigm for hutas. This is the word this, and if it's plural, these. What do you notice about this paradigm?
It's kind of like the definite article,
In what way?
in that the genitive, dative, and accusatives add T.
Yep, and then what do the nominatives have?
Rough breathing.
Yes. So that's one really big similarity, right? When you think of the definite article, ha, hey, ta, ha, hey, they both have rough breathing marks. Then when you switch to the non-nominative cases, that rough breathing mark goes away and a tau appears, right? Ha, hey, ta, tu, tes, tu, right? That's the same thing that does happen here. Hutas and haute have rough breathing marks. And so do the plurals. Hutoi, hautai. But when you jump down into they're called oblique cases, the ones that aren't nominative. When you jump down to those, a tau comes in. So that's similar. Now what about the endings?
They follow the first and second declensions.
Yep, it's 2-1-2, once again. So, even this, like, if you know the word hutas, you know what that word means. You already know all of these endings,
Yeah,
right?
well,
If we're talking about this woman, let's say, well, then it's going to be feminine. It's going to be a feminine.
auta.
You know, if we're talking about these lakes, right? Thalassa is feminine, so it's going to be feminine and it's going to be plural. It's going to be from this word. It's going to be from hutas. So you're matching it up. Some noticeable differences is look at the neuter column. When you're going down the neuter column, tuta is your first one. That's it. Really think about like auta, right? Ends in the omicron. That's pretty similar.
Yeah, that's similar to articles.
It's like a normal neuter. Now you're going down tuta, tutu, tuto. Okay, tuta again. Now look at the plurals. Tauta. There's something that's just a little different about that. What is it?
Change the root or the stem.
In the middle, right?
Yeah.
You would expect that to be spelled how?
Omicron, upsilon.
Yes. You would expect that to be tuta, that is tau, omicron, upsilon, tau, alpha. That's what you would expect. But for some reason, it switches to tau in the middle, so it's tau-ta. So just remember that. Tau-ta, and then it goes back to two-tone, two-tois, but then you have tau-ta again for the accusative plural. So that's something that's unexpected.
So that doesn't fit into any like pattern or anything, you just have to accept it.
Oh, I guarantee there's a reason for that. It's probably, I could guess why I think that's happening, but I don't think I would be really confident in my guess. But yep, and it's out there somewhere. There are definitely people who know why that switches. There's a rule, but it's not really not worth memorizing. Flip to the next page. This word is ekenos. Ekenos is the word for that. Okay, so hutas is this, and then if it's in the plural, it's these. And ekenos is that, and then if it's in the plural, it's those. But you're looking at it, you're like, oh man, but it's another huge paradigm. What the heck? Well, remember, these words are functioning as adjectives or pronouns. For that reason, they have to be able to appear in any case number and gender, because a noun can show up in any case number and gender, right? There are 3 genders of nouns, and this has to be able to represent all of them, you know? So that's why you have a paradigm. So you're looking at it, it's like, oh man, another, 24 or however many it is, word, like, this is ridiculous. But looking at it, what do you really need to know for a canos? You need to know that it means that or those, and you need to know that the part of it that doesn't change is ekane. And then what do you do after ekane?
Add the endings that are for the 2-1-2 declension.
Yep, you slap on the 2-1-2 endings, just like logos. Ekanos, ekeno, ekeno, ekenon, right? That's what you do. And it's going to match. So if it's like that spoon, it's going to match spoon in case number and gender, right? Bring that over here. Well, whatever that is representing, it's going to match that thing in its number and its gender. So there you have hutas and ekanos.
It's just weird that they're such different looking words.
Yeah, because in our, because for us, they look pretty similar.
Yeah.
So, want to jump into workbook. And if possible, what I want to do is just go till 10 after because we started so late. But if you have to leave right at 12, go ahead. I'm going to, I'll just be going till 10 after. So. So let's do, we're going to go to exercise 10 first. Remember we covered 10 and 11 last class. So 10 was the 3rd declension. Yay. Yes.
Just a real quick question. So I was just kind of reading the Lord's Prayer. On page 40, it said the Lord's Prayer inscribed on the inside of the evangelical church in Greece. It is not modern Greek, but it is the form said in the church today. So that is biblical Greek, or is it like ancient Greek, like Homer Greek? The one.
No, it would be in Koine.
So what?
So it would be in New Testament Greek.
New Testament Greek.
Yeah, because you're not going to have. Yes.
Because you wouldn't have the evangelical.
Because no one that I know of took the New Testament and then translated it into classical Greek.
Right.
Yeah, not that I know of. So, yeah, and mostly because people who let's say of the ancient world, people who had a more formal education, maybe they actually went to the academy in Athens, because Athens was kind of like a college town for many centuries actually. They would have been able to read the Greek of the New Testament,
Okay.
So there wouldn't have been any need to do that. So, good question. Page 31. Number 1 on the parsing.
Before we go there, could you just talk a little bit about those charts, the paradigm above there, because I got screwed up, especially on the 3rd declension.
Yep.
I just learned one declining of that 3rd declension, but it looks like there's another one for neuter.
Yep. The first column is sarx and the second one's anima. It's because they have different stems. Because most 3rd declension nouns will fall into those 2 columns. What he has up there is what I don't have you guys do. See, he wants you just to write the endings.
Yeah.
Which
that was
I think-
confusing.
Like, if you can fit the whole word in there, absolutely, write it out. you know, if you write really tiny. So that first one's gonna be sarx, and the second one would be anima. So if I were you, and if you wanted to fill that out, I would encourage you just to write really small and try to actually write out the whole word. So like,
I see.
anima, animate, excuse me, anima, animatas, animate, anima, like, if you're able to fit it all in.
Okay, cool, thanks.
But that's the neuter one. Did you have a question? Or did you just raise your hand?
No.
Oh, so sarki, any volunteer? Dave?
So it's dative,
Yep.
singular,
Yes.
masculine.
Well,
I,
It isn't masculine.
no.
it isn't?
Oh, it's feminine, isn't it? Because
It
if it
is.
has an I, it's usually feminine. Or
Well,
no,
it's not that. It happens to be feminine.
okay.
Yeah.
And we-
Because the noun is feminine?
Yep, sarki is a feminine noun.
Okay.
So like with that,
Because with the I ending, it could be anything.
Are you doing the parsing?
oh yes, yeah, exactly. The dative singular,
Right.
even if it were anima, it'd be animate, right? So, you know, that's the thing. How do we know? With the third declension, you really need to memorize the lexical form and the article that comes with it. So like when you're looking in the back of the book here, sarx on page 411, you have sarx, sarkas, and hey. So if you memorize that lexical entry,
Yeah.
the third declension, they're harder to guess. But you're good to go, bro. Lexical form.
All sucks.
Mm-hmm. Reflected meaning. So do you know what inflected meaning means?
Yeah, it's the meaning of the word.
Well, it's specifically the meaning of the inflected form that you see here.
Right, so
Yep. So sarx means flesh. So what would a dative singular form mean?
in the flesh?
That can work. Yep. Okay. Would anyone like to do number 2? Well, that's a new. That third letter.
I mean, I can do it, but I just don't want to reflect the meaning.
All right. Well, yeah. Do all the other ones then. That's fine.
Tinas.
Yep. Tinas.
Nominative. Number 2, second declension. Masculine. Lexical form would be the same. Tinas.
Okay. So here's the thing. It's not second. It's third declension. So, this is a good. I'm glad you answered in that way, because you see the ending, you see the omicron sigma ending, and you think, oh, it's like logos, it's like huios, it's like anthropos, it's the second declension, but it's a third declension.
Gender.
Now with the third declension, we have let's do sarx real quick. For sarx, our nominative singular is, of course, sarx. Yay. Now, our genitive singular would be, anyone can say it,
Sarki.
Sarkos.
Oh.
sarkas.
Sarkos.
Yep. So genitive singular has the same ending as the nominative singular in the second declension. But that's why when you're memorizing the lexical form, it gives you like sarx, let's say, let's use that as an example, gives you sarx, but then also the genitive singular, sarkas. That way you know that it's not second declension. Like it lets you know which declension it falls into. So sarx, sarkas. What's dative singular?
Sarki, sarkic?
Sarke or sarki, yeah. And accusative?
Sarka.
Sarka. And the plurals?
Sarkikes?
Yep, sarkes. And then
Sarcone.
sarcome.
Sarcophagus.
Sarky.
Does that have anything to do with?
Is it sarky?
Okay, it's okay.
This one is sarcsin.
Sarcsin.
Yep, because it's dative plural. The ending is sin, and you have sarc and then sin, and the kappa and the sigma become a xi, but it makes the same exact sound. If it were sarc, sin, it would still be pronounced the same as sarcsin, you know?
Sarcsin.
And lastly,
Sarcos.
sarcos. Yes.
Just real quick, I might not have anything to, but you know the word sarcophagus, does that have to do with the Greek?
Oh, I'm sure it comes directly from Greek. It probably comes from sarkos.
Slash.
Phagus or phagos is like probably from the verb estiao or estio, which means to eat. Like esophagus, the word phag or phagos, phagus, it usually has to do with eating. So obviously
Eating flesh.
sarcophagus. I would look into it, but it probably comes from those words. Probably comes from the word flesh, and then the verb to eat is. But I'd have to double check. So remember, right now we're looking at the third declension. This is the third declension chapter. So the vast majority of the words is going to make you parse our third declension. So keep that in mind. So we have tinos. And now, knowing that it's third declension, and we're looking at these endings, it's probably what case and number?
Dative.
Excuse me. Well, I'm going to let my dad finish it out.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You,
I was trying to help.
No, it's fine. Just, look at the ending, the last two letters.
yeah,
Does it match any of those up there?
That's one down.
So, tinos, what case would it be then?
Well, it have to be nominative, dative. Dative's the second one.
Nope, genitive, second one.
Genitive, right?
And number.
Well, I said two before, that wasn't right.
Well, that number is in singular or plural.
Oh. It's singular.
Yep. And then gender for tinos is actually going to be masculine or neuter. Could be.
But I only guessed that because of the position in the.
Yep. Well, it's masculine or neuter. Can be either one.
Oh, okay.
The lexical form is tis.
Really?
Yep. So in the third declension, in most words that decline, if something's going to be a little funky, it might be the nominative. All the rest follow the pattern.
Yeah, I
You
didn't
know.
study the third declension at all, because when you were going down there, it's like, these don't match up with the other ones, right?
The ones we did today were all 2-1-2. Yep.
No, but I'm saying that, when I'm looking at that, in
This is-
my mind, it doesn't match up.
This is third declension. The ones that I taught today, autos and utos and
Yeah.
kinos, they're all 2-1-2.
Right.
But the way the workbook is, we're one lesson behind in the workbook.
No,
So-
but I'm saying as far as the way they decline, the endings are
Are
different on some of them?
different. Well, that's because this is third declension.
Right, that's where I was getting confused, I didn't study these yet.
And so the inflected meaning on tinos is going to be, it's the one with the accent mark. So it's an
Oh.
interrogative pronoun. So it can be who,
Anyone?
which, why.
Oh, that.
So you just put one of those.
I get that. Which one?
Okay. So let's try to do a little bit of translating, if possible. I'm looking at the warm-ups, and I'm looking at, looking at Zeta, the second to last one. Would someone like to give that a shot? All right, well, I'll be nice and do this one.
Okay.
And then, we'll see if some of you, might wanna do one or two. So, for the second to last warm-up on page 32,
All right.
we have tines, asin, hoi, adelphoi, mu. Now, you'll notice that punctuation mark after mu. What is that?
That's a question.
That is a question mark. So it's always a good idea to look at that. Because what happens is you'll end up trying to translate it and you're like, wait, this is not working. And then you realize, oh, it's a question. That makes a lot of sense. So, the word tines. Tines is, if you're looking right up here, it's third declension, right? So when you're looking, hey, where does it match?
It's the
Nominative
dative.
plural.
It matches
Oh.
sarkes, right? So
Oh.
tines is nominative plural. It is. Now, asin is from ami. Now,
I am or something.
yep, it's from the verb to be. Now, this is third person
They are.
plural. So it means they are, okay? Now, well, I might ask, who are? Like, do we have
Yeah.
a subject?
I-
Hoi adelphoi. Hoi adelphoi, that is nominative plural, right? It's from adelphos, and it means brother. But it's
Okay.
nominative plural, so it's brothers, and I know that it's functioning as a subject. So, and they are, oh, that could have brothers as subject, right? Brothers are, because they're plural, right? Now, mu is from ego, but mu is the genitive from ego. What does mu mean?
Mine.
My. So we have brothers are my or mine,
They are
but it's
my
a
brothers.
question, and we have tines. Tines has the accent mark, so it's it's an interrogative pronoun. So it can mean who, which, why.
Which is good.
Who are my
Which kind
brothers?
of goes in there.
Who are my brothers?
What if who seems to work very well? Who are the brothers of me? No, who are my brothers?
Oh, I was just gonna say, because if you already know that they're my brothers, because you have mine, then
Well,
who wouldn't really?
well, we're gonna translate it my brothers.
Okay.
Who are my, because hoi adelphoi, there is a definite article. So what do we
Okay.
do with the? Well, the word my already contains definiteness in it. So it can, when you translate it, you just supplant the definite article with the word my. So you just get rid of it. So, who are my brothers? And you recognize that. Jesus said that, right? Who are my brothers and my sisters and my mother, except those who do the will of God or do the will of my Father, right?
Yeah.
I have a question. Why is hoi adelphoi? Why isn't that accusative?
Oh, it's because the verb to be, both subject and object, will be in the nominative.
Okay.
Because it's not actually the object is not really a direct object with a to be verb because there's no action being done.
That's what I
Right?
thought. Well, okay.
It's a verb that's expressing identity or it's equating two things. So for that reason, they're in the same case. Another interesting thing is that verbs that mean to call like calling something this, like I called the man good, that one will also have an object that's in the nominative as well. Because you're asserting that this person is this when you call him that. So it's both in the nominative. So it's interesting.
That makes sense.
But yep, that's why. Good question. Number one. Would anyone like to try number one?
Sure.
Yes.
Everyone is going to him? Like towards him?
Pretty much. Could you, well, I'll pronounce it, just
Oh, yeah.
for time's sake. So it's Pontes erkantai pros autam. So, you said everyone. The only thing is that
Pause.
pas, yes. Now, what part of speech is that? Each, every, all. What part of speech is that? Is it a
It's
noun?
like an adjective. Of
It is an adjective, yes. Now, Pontes, is that matched up with a noun in this sentence?
Imply. No, they.
Well, they is contained in the verb.
Right.
So is there a noun that Pontes is matching up with in this?
No, it's
No,
not.
there's not. Therefore, Pontes is functioning as what sort of adjective?
It's a really long word, arthros, something, and
Well, that means it doesn't have an article.
Oh,
Pontes is functioning as a noun, so it's substantival. You don't need to necessarily memorize that word, but I want you to know that this is functioning as a noun, you know? That you can see that. There's no noun around, this thing's functioning as the noun.
Does
All are going to him. So all, what does it mean though? If you were to supply a noun, what would it be?
everyone.
Like
Or
all
the
the
people.
people. Mhm.
Everybody.
It is masculine, so you could say all the men, but if you had a big group of men and women, you would probably use the masculine to identify that group. So,
Sean, excuse me. Does
Yep.
it change the sentence if you have towards him? All are going towards him?
no, it still mean the same thing, just in English we probably wouldn't use that preposition there. It would
Okay.
be more natural for us to say to.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, can someone do number 5? Yes, Liz.
Kai. Hagion.
Just a rough breathing mark.
Hagion.
Yep.
Ta. Anama.
Yep, just put it on the first syllable, the emphasis.
Hanama.
Anama.
Anima. Out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I got, and his name is holy.
Yes. Yes. Now, here's a question. She put, and his name is holy, but there, I don't see a verb, I don't see a to be verb there. How did she get that? Does anybody know?
When you translate, you just have to supply it.
You do have to supply it, but there is a specific reason why you supply it here.
Because the whole, we did it because the holy ending is for the end of the predicates.
Yes. It's in
So
the
it needed something.
You're exactly right. It's in the predicate position. So hagion is from hagios, right? It is an adjective. So, when you're looking at it, it means holy. Why wouldn't we say and his holy name? Why do we say and
That's
his
what
name
I got the first
is
time.
holy?
It didn't look like.
But the reason is because, remember, if the adjective does not have an article, but the noun that it's modifying does, then it is a predicate. It means that you stick the verb to be in between.
Okay.
So that's exactly why. It's because anima has an article, but hagion, which matches anima, does not have an article. So therefore you translate it, and his name is holy. Yeah. Very good. let's do number 10. Number 10 is a good one. Tois passen gegana panta. Well, he gives you gegana. I have become. Okay? Now, the other, there's only 3 other words in this. So, how do we do this? Well, I have my verb, so now I should look for like an explicit subject. Do I have an explicit subject here? Like do I definitely have a nominative here?
No, not really.
Tois passen is what case? Look at that article.
That's
Well, look at that article.
okay, David thing.
It's dated, yes. Tois is dated. Passen's dated too. It's just third declension
Okay.
instead of second. That's why it's not like passois. It's passen because it's third declension. But tois goes with passen, right? Dative,
Yeah.
plural. That's what those are. So those aren't the subject. Panta is neuter from pas, right? Pas, pasa, pan. And if you go down the pan column and you get into the plurals, you have panta is nominative plural, but it can also be accusative plural. So panta could be the subject, but it could also be the object, right? But the thing is, the verb is I have become. So panta would actually be something, it would have to be they have become if panta were the subject. So it can't be. It has to be the object of I have become. So we have I have become panta. What does panta mean?
Oh,
It means all, but there's no noun.
I
It's
know.
functioning as a noun. So what would we supply? I have become all. Remember, it's neuter.
Well, you know?
I have
Things.
become all things. Yes.
Oh.
When you have an adjective that's in the neuter and it's functioning as a noun, lots of times you put in the word thing after because that makes sense. Thing is neuter. It's not a person. I have become all things, and now you might just be able to guess it from English, but if you can, just try to look at the Greek. I have become all things, and then we have tois passen. That's dative plural from what word? What word's passen from? It's from pas as well, which means, we already know.
To all.
Yep, pas means each, every, or all, but it's plural, so it means all. So I have become all things to all. Well, you're saying men, but I don't see the word men
I don't
here.
either, but
You're saying it because you know 1 Corinthians 9. I've become all things to all, but it should be men. It should be I become all things to all men. Why? Why would you put
because it's in the
men?
Bible.
Because in the Bible, this is true is a good answer. Now, I become all things to all men. What might indicate to us that we should insert the word men?
Masculine.
It's masculine
Yes.
plural.
Okay,
I become all things to all men. Now, is Paul specifically emphasizing the male gender? No, really what he's saying is I become all things to all people. That's what he means.
Humanity.
But we'll put men in there because it's a very common verse. Just stick with the normal translation. So I have become all things to all men. The word things and men aren't actually there. They're implied from the gender of the adjectives. That's kind of cool, right? Okay, I mean, it's 10 after. Do you guys want to try to do one more short one?
Alright.
Sure.
Is this, because the thing
One more.
is, it is really important to go through translation. What's nice is once we get to like chapter, I think 23 or 24, at that point we only do one chapter per class.
It hurts my brain.
But when we're doing 2 chapters in one class, we have very little time for workbook. So,
Sorry, hello?
so we'll just do one more short one. Let me pick.
Eight's about the only short one,
There isn't any short ones left.
Yeah.
right? Eight's kind of short compared
Want
to
to do
that.
8?
Well, let's just do the second part
Okay,
of number 8, starting
Okay.
in oudes. So it's,
because that's a question, the first part.
well, just to make it quicker.
Okay.
Once you, this is a very, very famous verse as well, so once you
No.
start to get it, you'll recognize it. So we have
Nobody.
oudes agathos, e me heis,
Nothing.
ha theos.
Nothing
So-
good.
When I'm looking at this, I don't see a verb. Well, that's okay. Let me just look for, let's just identify what we do have. We have oudes. What does oudes mean?
Nothing or no one or.
Nothing or no one. Now, why does it mean nothing or no one? When you look at that word, it's comprised of ou.
Which is not.
Ou is a negation. Yes, it
Yeah.
means, it usually negates a verb, but it's a negation. And then you have ace, which comes from the word haste. Haste, me, a hen, we learned it last class, it means one. So, ou is no or not, and then haste means one. No one, nothing. Makes perfect sense. Okay? Oudes agathos. Now, what does agathos mean?
Good.
It means
Oh, good.
good. Now, it's nominative, singular, masculine. So is oudes. Okay, let's keep this in mind. They match in case, number, and gender. And agathos is an adjective, right? So it could be like good no one, or I don't know. There's some possibilities here because neither one of them have an article. So we could translate it a few different ways. But let's keep that on the shelf. A usually means,
Are. You are.
well, no, this one only has one. It doesn't have an accent. It only has a smooth breathing mark. It's a different word. It means if or when. That was a good guess, though. If or when, and then we have may. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so what is the word to come in Greek?
To come
Yeah.
is going to, well, okay, the word erkamai means to come or to go, and that's the most common one.
Okay.
Yep, but you'll learn that in future chapters once we get into the late teens. Okay, so a means if or when. Okay, but lots of times it means if. May is what?
Imitation.
Yes, may means not or no also. Now, when a and may are together, they,
Not.
if not, and then what's the other way you can translate that? I think he gives it to you. It's when a and may are next to each other, you can do if not, or lots of times you do except. Except.
Oh.
Okay. Haste means what?
Into.
Well, it's got a rough reading mark.
Oh,
It's the word one. Haste. And then we have hatheos, which is
God.
God. Now what's interesting is
That's the only one I got
oudes,
right.
agathos, haste, and hatheos. They're all nominative, singular, masculine. All of them are. Okay. So we have no one and then good. But we're going to go with a predicate translation. I'm just going to kind of do it so we can leave. Because I've kept you long enough. Thank you for being patient. So, oudes, no one, agathos. We're not going to say good no one. We're going to say no one
Good.
is good. Okay? We're going to make it a predicate translation. We're supplying the word to be. No one is good, amen, except, this is ringing a bell. No one is good except, then we have haste, means one, hatheos, means God. So, no one is good except
One
the
God.
one God.
No.
But the thing is, well, no, that's a possible translation. But the word one sometimes can be used like adverbially. Like you'll see it in your translation as no one is good except God alone. So when Jesus is talking to the rich young ruler, right? So for your translation, you'd probably put no one is good except the one God.
Yeah.
Or, so he gives you, he just asked a question. So the first part, though, says this. Te me leges agathon. Te means why. Me is me, the object. Leges is you. So why, we're going to put do you, we're going to put the word do in English. Why do you call me good? Agathon. Why do you call me good?
But there's okay. There's a question mark.
Yeah, oh yeah, agathon has a question mark
No one
after
is
it.
good except
No
God
one is
alone.
good except God alone.
Tell ya.
That was a tougher. That was a tougher one. All right, very good. You guys are doing good. We're going fast. Just hold on. Hold on. Bye bye.